Seth, I appreciate you. Thanks so much for doing this. Here we
Always a
go.
pleasure. Great to see you.
This will be episode 150. So I'll start with that and we'll get rolling. Here we go. Seth Godin, welcome back to the show.
Always a treat, Joe. It's good to see you, man.
Good to see you. Hey, thanks so much for joining us, Seth. For those that want to catch up on Seth's amazing work, I was lucky enough to have Seth on the show two other times that I'll link in the show notes. But today, Seth is here to speak about his latest book, This is Strategy. And I know, Seth, you say that you only write a book when you only can not write it. What made you decide that it was time to write a book on strategy?
Well, I would say two things. The first is that when people come to me for marketing advice, what I found is what they really wanted was strategy advice. And I just kept telling people the same thing over and over again. And the second is a lot of people are feeling like they're missing hope, that they don't know how to make things better in their work, in their community. And the reason is we've been indoctrinated into thinking we can't do anything. And strategy is the hard work of making better plans, doing something today to make tomorrow better, whether that's getting a freelance gig or making an impact in the community. And I wanted to share those ideas.
You write in the book, strategy is the practice of becoming. You also write a lot about strategy and empathy. When I think strategy, I think of corporate MBAs and I think of generals and admirals, right? Going into battle. But you write a lot about empathy. To have a good strategy, you need empathy. How does empathy connect with strategy and make it better?
So the thing about war is the other side doesn't have much of a choice. You are doing something to them. For the rest of us, we are voluntarily engaging in what we do. You can't force someone to come to your gym or your restaurant. They have to want to come. So telling people why we are right isn't as useful as creating the conditions for them to feel like they are right. And so the work is to have the empathy to realize they don't know what we know or want what we want, but that's okay. And then to go to where they are, to offer them, to create the conditions for them to make a choice.
Mhm. You write a lot about culture, and I love your definition of culture. People like us do things like this. How best to connect strategy with culture? And how can the two best feed off each other?
So we are surrounded by systems. A chicken is just an egg's way of making another egg. That systems exist to stick around. They do this by changing the culture. So there's a culture about what it is to get married in our communities. That keeps the caterers in business. They invented or supported or amplified that culture. So if we're going to make a difference, we do that by creating the conditions for culture to exist, for it to be this is the way things are. There's a culture of podcasting. It wasn't here 20 years ago.
Mm.
Who decided what it would be like? And then once it starts, people keep it going. So there isn't someone in charge of podcasting, but podcasting persists because there's a culture around it.
You write a lot about the race to the bottom. Be careful about the race to the bottom because you might win, right? Like as soon as someone comes along 2 cents cheaper, they're going to go with them. And the probably the second worst place to be is you come in second with the race to the bottom, right? So it's just not a good place to go. With strategy, how can someone take a strategic approach, a company, a creative person, avoid the race to the bottom, but also still remain competitive in the long term? Does that make sense? Where you're trying to maximize your growth and opportunity and you want to scale, but you don't want to go to the bottom. To me, I find that so difficult at times.
Low price is the last refuge of someone who doesn't have a strategy.
Mhm.
It's the coward's way out. Just lower your price.
Mhm.
You cannot name a successful scaled entity that is the cheapest one. right? And
Mhm.
so, like, even Walmart isn't the cheapest one. They use price as part of their strategy, but they're not the cheapest one.
Mhm.
So, when you find yourself leaning into, I'll just have to lower my prices, that is a signal that you should be focusing on something else.
I think one of the biggest things I learned from you over the years, one of them, top five, is ignoring sunk costs. Like they're just a gift to yourself from a previous life, right? So, how can ignoring sunk costs help you create a successful strategy?
So, to catch people up, a sunk cost is your law degree, a sunk cost is everything in your fridge,
Mm.
a sunk cost is the job you have right now. They may be valuable, but they may not be. And if you don't need them anymore, if the milk in the fridge is rotten, it doesn't matter how much you paid for it.
Mm.
You need to throw it out. You cannot have a strategy unless you make a change happen. You cannot make a change happen unless you're willing to ignore something from your past.
Yeah, I can relate to that so much. I was an accounting major. I went to school and I was at one point in the 90s the worst accountant in the state of Pennsylvania. And I just had to get out. Like it's just I gave myself a sunk cost. I gave myself my old self gave me a gift of an accounting degree, but then I switched into sales and I'm doing something totally different I went to school with. But if I didn't ignore that sunk cost, I have no idea where I'd be. Like I'd be so miserable, like it would be, but you just have to drop it, even though it's sitting there and it's a gift. You're like, it's a gift you don't have to take, right?
Exactly.
No, that's great. And then how about this? You say culture is a system and no one is in charge. If no one's in charge, how does the system keep getting refined and keep getting made better if no one's in charge? Does that make sense?
So, where did your white headphones come from?
Probably Apple.
That's right. Steve and his team, when they launched the iPod, it shipped with white headphones instead of black ones. So, if you went to the gym, you could see who the cool people were because they had white headphones. And other people wanted to be cool. So, they got some too. So, the device that Apple made was invisible, it was in your pocket. But they created this cultural idea that stuck.
Mhm.
But now, of course, it's being replaced by the next thing and the next thing. So everyone contributes to culture, but no one is in charge of it.
I want to connect permission marketing with strategy. All right, say you're a creative person, right? Maybe you have a blog, you have a podcast, maybe a YouTube channel, and say you want to do your best work, but you slowly want to grow your audience. You believe in permission marketing, where you want to write for your readers. You want them to tell the others, grow organically, not you like spamming and interrupting people. So how can someone create a strategy that's going to scale? Maybe if someone had 1,000 downloads a podcast and they want to go to 2,000 downloads at some point, how can you do that and still have permission marketing, but without spamming people or advertising where you don't need to be advertising?
Okay, let's break this into pieces. The first piece is this: if you are hustling on TikTok or YouTube, they don't work for you. You are working for them for free. You are buying into their system to make them better. So don't play a game you can't win. Someone is going to go viral, but it probably won't be you.
Mhm.
Number two, if you connect to 100 people or 1,000 people, you're not going to be able to grow by spamming, even if you try. What will help you grow is if the people you are connecting with believe that they have a selfish reason to tell their friends. When people tell their friends, the word spreads and you get more permission. So my blog had 100 readers for the first 2 months,
Mhm.
and now it has 1 million. But I didn't get from 100 to 1 million by spamming people. I got there by writing things that other people would benefit from sharing. And that cycle has worked in the past. It's not guaranteed to work in the future. You have to look at which system are you showing up in.
Saying today, I have not done any of this, but people come to me and say, wow, Joe, if you just spent 500 bucks on Facebook and targeted people that you're looking for, you're going to double your reach. But to me, that would not be permission marketing, right? Would that be the opposite of permission marketing?
Well, close, but you're buying ads, you're not sending people spam.
Okay.
But the thing about Facebook is Facebook sells attention and they sell it by the barrelful. And the people who buy the attention never profit as much as Facebook does from selling
Mm.
it. And once it starts working, other people will pay more than you. So again, we have this hustle culture that is worth it avoiding.
Thank you. Appreciate that. How about this? I want to switch over a little bit with strategy. I think the biggest thing from where my brain is since the internet is AI. And thank you for Claude AI. I was using ChatGPT. I switched. I saw your blog and it's way better. Thank you for that. How can the average professional use AI to their advantage? Let's put under the concept of strategy. What's a good strategy for the average creative person that has a blog, a podcast, a YouTube channel? How can they utilize AI to capitalize on the new technology?
Well, I guess I would start with this. It would be a little like asking 100 years ago, what's the best way for an entrepreneur to use electricity? So first you got to figure out what it can do. And I think you ought to be spending an hour a day just fooling around with it. Because if there are people you're competing with who are better at it than you got big trouble because it's $1 trillion device that they get to use for free. And you're afraid of it and they're not. So that's the first thing.
Mhm.
And then the second thing I would say is from now on, never do any job that an AI can do pretty well because it will outwork you. You need to do jobs that AI can't do.
Mhm. Because if you're doing a job an AI can do, they're going to do it. That can do it in 8 seconds. Yeah, you just can't compete, right? So
Right.
you have to do something that's better than you could find in AI. All right. Like this is how I'm using it now. I'll do a podcast and 4 or 5 concepts will come up in a talk. And I'll say, come up with a great podcast title for this guest that we talked about these 5 things. And in 2 seconds, I have 70 great ideas that were better than the 10 I came up with, right? Or if you write something, I'll say, where doesn't this make sense? Or where does this contradict? And it's like, oh my gosh, I had no idea this sentence and this sentence totally said different things, right?
Yeah. Well
It's
done.
fantastic. Ah, fantastic. So wrapping up here, Seth, I know your time is limited. Just a couple fun questions and then one question to wrap this up. We asked this for our guests coming in for the second time. Fun questions, total non sequiturs. Seth, what purchase of yours of $100 or less has most positively impacted your life?
I love this question. You know, I can't rank them all, but I would say I regularly buy $15 chocolate bars that are ethically made. They give me enormous amounts of joy. I regularly buy cream ease peanut butter that is $10 of magic in a jar. I find that artisanal edibles are just totally worth it. What a treat.
That's awesome. How about this? What is the worst advice you see or hear being dispensed in your field? And your field's big. Let's go strategy. Since we're the books on strategy, what's the worst advice you hear being dispersed in the field of strategy?
Be authentic. Find your purpose.
You know, when I hear that, I hear be authentic. I think of the angry brain surgeon you bring up or something like, do you want the angry surgeon who got in a fight with their husband on the way to work? Right? No, thank you. I'll take the consistent one, right? Wrapping up here. When you feel overwhelmed or unfocused or just not motivated, what do you do?
I go for a walk with Murray the dog from the shelter.
Nice.
Walks are underrated.
So good. Right, that Nietzsche line, nothing, no great ideas came without walking or something like that. That's Murray. How old is Murray?
His birthday was last week. He's one.
Oh, that's awesome. Congratulations. That's awesome. Hey, good luck with Murray. Last question, Seth. I'll tie this up with the book. This is strategy. Seth, we spoke about authenticity, culture, strategy. We talked about interruption marketing. Seth, if you could have everyone listening take just one lesson away from everything we discussed, what would that lesson be?
You have more power than you want to admit and less than you think you might. Each of us has a chance to lean in and make a difference, but none of us is in charge.
Wow. I think that is about as good as a spot as any to wrap this up. Seth Godin, so great to see you again. Seth, for the people looking for you and the book and everything you do online, where can we find you?
My blog is called seths.blog. And if you go to seths.blog/TIS, you'll find all sorts of bonuses and stuff about the new book.
Seth, this is episode 150. None of this would have been possible without Pod 7 and the Akimbo workshop with you and Alex back in the day. Appreciate you. Thank you for all you do. Thanks for leading the way, turning on the lights, showing the path. Couldn't do without you, man. Thank you so much.
Joe, don't hang up yet. I got to speak for the people who listen to you. You're the one who keeps showing up. You're the one who brings optimism and energy. So on behalf of everybody, thank you, because it really matters.
I appreciate it. I mean so much, Seth. Seth, thank you so much. Wish you continued success. Keep in touch and good luck with the book.
Thank you. See you, Joe.
Thank you.
Oh, you're a pro. I appreciate you. We'll see you.